So it's been about 90 days since the Switch 2 launched, and I've had my fair share of time with the console at this point. Today I just wanted to go over my general thoughts, my first impressions. I'm also going to talk about my favorite games I played during this period. I'm going to get into my minor gripes with the Switch 2. After that, I'm going to talk about my favorite improvements that the Switch 2 has made over the Switch 1. And finally, I want to do an outlook of the near future of the Nintendo Switch 2. There are a good amount of promising titles coming out this fall, and that's not even considering what titles could be announced at the rumored Nintendo Direct that's allegedly happening next Friday. Anyways, that's enough introduction. Let's get into the video. Guys, I just wanted to talk about how Silksong finally dropped yesterday, and it took me 40 minutes to even be able to buy it, but I'm kind of addicted to it, so there's going to be plenty of footage in the video of Silksong gameplay, but I'll try not to put any major spoilers. So into my first impressions. The first couple weeks of the Switch 2 was an absolute blast. Mario Kart was very refreshing with the new movement. I had a really fun time experimenting with jumping around, and it really felt like Tony Hawk Pro Skater meets Mario Kart, which Tony Hawk has always been a franchise I love a lot. Me and my friends were just playing Mario Kart every single day. I also bought Cyberpunk 2077, and I played it a little bit when it first launched, and I was hating on it hard because the performance issues were awful, even though I had a decent PC at the time. But dude, the fact that they made this thing run so well on the Switch 2 is wild. Like, I mean, it doesn't run perfect, but it looks good enough, and it runs at a solid frame rate almost the whole time unless you're driving. There are a few frame drops when you get to the DLC area, but the fact that the game is fully on cartridge with the DLC and it runs solid, and I played through the entire main campaign and a little bit of the DLC, it's just crazy. I couldn't even think of this being a possibility last year when we had so many garbage ports on the Switch 1, especially the Mortal Kombat 1. But yeah, my time with Cyberpunk was great. I'm eventually going to go back and finish the DLC for Cyberpunk as well, but there's just been so many games I've been wanting to play that I didn't want to dive into that quite yet. But yeah, Cyberpunk was a good time, and we won't really talk about Welcome Tour. Next, I'd like to talk about my gripes with the console. The one thing that really stuck out to me was how poor the battery life is. I work with my dad in construction, and I usually just ride with him because we'll have like 2-hour drive sometimes to the job site. So I would bring my Switch and just play in the passenger seat, and sometimes it wouldn't even last. I'd be playing something like yesterday I was playing Silksong in the car, and that game is not like graphically intensive or anything, but it only lasted maybe 3.5 hours. I just think that's pretty bad. When I played Hollow Knight on the Steam Deck last week, that I could get like maybe 7 hours out of that. I really just wish they opted for a bigger battery, and I probably would have been okay with it being slightly thicker of a console, but I mean, I get why they wanted it to be the same thickness as the Switch 1, but I don't know. I just bought a battery pack that can charge it like 4 times and with one charge, so I'll be using that a lot, and I probably won't complain as much about the battery life anymore. Another thing that annoys me a lot about this console is the insanely unintuitive HDR setup. I've had to readjust the HDR probably about 150 times since getting this, and it's not like you just go into the settings on the Switch and fix it. You have to go into your TV or monitor settings, make sure those are correct. Then you have to go into the Switch one, and still sometimes it looks washed out or oversaturated. I don't get why they couldn't have made this more intuitive, but it's honestly not that big of a deal. The last gripe I wanted to talk about is just the weight. It is significantly heavier than the Switch 1, and the form factor of it does not help because it is like a slab and doesn't have like a grip like the Steam Deck does. I've been waiting on this Satisfy Zen Grip 2 to come in for about 3 months, and I think it's finally about to come in. That'll probably change my thoughts on the weight because it's really not that heavy, but I tried going back to the Switch OLED for a second, and it is so much lighter. It's crazy. I used to think that it was pretty heavy, but also, yeah, talking about the screen, like, it's really nice, but oh man, I miss OLED. I get it would have been insanely expensive for them to do OLED 120 hertz, but whenever that finally comes out, the Switch 2 OLED, I'll definitely get it. But yeah, now let's talk about the positives of this. Honestly, there's a lot of positives to this. First off, the full backwards compatibility almost of Switch 1 games. I mean, I'm kind of jealous of people who didn't get a Switch 1 because now they get to play all of these Switch 1 games on the Switch 2, up-res, and the frame rates are going to be stable. Like, for example, Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, that game ran like pure garbage on the Switch 1. And being able to play that on the Switch 2 at a constant 60 FPS, that literally fixes half of my problems with the game. And another thing is, Breath of the Wild, I'm genuinely so jealous of people that are playing it for the first time because it's honestly like a completely different game. Like, being able to play that in 4K 120 FPS, that is an absolute game changer. But yeah, if you never had a Switch 1, the Switch 2 is an insanely good deal because of how much. Yeah, if you never had a Switch 1, I would say buy this as soon as possible. With like tariffs and stuff, the price could go up at any minute. There's so many games that you missed out on by not having a Switch 1 that you could play in a way better form factor and everything than how I and many other Switch 1 users played the games originally. But yeah, there's so many 10 out of 10 games on the Switch, and to be able to play those in 4K and just a constant frame rate for a lot of the games because they ran poorly originally. Next, I want to talk about how the Joy-Cons on the Switch 2 are infinitely better than the Switch 1. Bigger form factor. If you're playing with the Joy-Cons sideways, they made the bumpers twice the size, and they're made of metal. Actually is a viable way of playing now. And the sticks, oh my god. The sticks on the regular Joy-Con and the Pro Controller are amazing, especially the Pro Controller. I think the Pro Controller is my favorite controller of all time at this point. It looks exactly the same as the last one, but once you have it in your hands and try it, it is the best feeling controller ever. The D-pad is amazing for 2D games. The sticks are absolutely like buttery smooth. You can't even hear them. I originally wanted them to go to analog triggers, but honestly, I've gotten used to the digital triggers, and just being able to instantly click and not have a delay at all is nice. And the buttons are just, I mean, they were amazing on the original Pro Controller, so it's just that and better. But yeah, if you get a Switch 2, buy the Pro Controller no matter what. Like, make sure you have the Pro Controller. It's amazing. But lastly, I just wanted to talk about the 120 hertz screen. In handheld mode, it makes it look so much better. I love it. But I mean, that only goes so far. But the craziest thing about this console, it actually has serviceable ports of major titles that are actively coming out and recent titles. For example, Street Fighter 6. This game, it runs just as good as the PS5 version almost. And the graphics aren't as good, but apparently the Street Fighter 6 port on Switch 2 actually has better input delay than the PS5 version, which is the main one used for tournaments and stuff. I've been playing so much Street Fighter lately and had it on PS5, but getting it on Switch, that's the main way I play it now. Honestly, Street Fighter just seems like it was meant to be played on a hybrid console, because just being able to pick it up and bring the Switch easily to your friend's house and be able to play a few matches whenever is just so nice. And I just love playing locally, and the Switch 2 just makes it 10 times easier. A game I didn't get into that much on the Switch 1 but decided to try on the Switch 2 because it ran so much better was Mario Bowser's Fury. I didn't really like the game at first on the Switch 1, but after playing it on here in its new, like, after playing on the Switch 2 polished up with a smooth frame rate, this game is amazing. And it's crazy that they just added this along with Mario 3D World when it could have honestly been its own game if they added a few more missions. It's very short, but it's a fun time. And if you haven't played either 3D World or Bowser's Fury, that game is a great game to buy if you're waiting for a new 3D Mario. Alright, but let's get into the main course. Donkey Kong Bonanza is one of the best games I've ever played. I honestly didn't expect to love this game as much as I did. I was kind of worrisome at first that the gameplay would just become repetitive because you're just destroying things. But this game, I'm just gonna say it, it's better than any Mario I've ever played, and even including Mario Odyssey. which was already one of my top 10 games ever. I just absolutely love it. The Donkey Kong redesign, I don't care what anyone says, it's 10 times better than the Rare design. And it actually had a decent story, which is unheard of in Mario games. And I don't want to spoil it, but the story beats at the end make you so excited to see what's to come. Donkey Kong is so much more expressive in this game, and his reactions to the different things going on in the story and just the things going on when you're playing around in the world is so funny, and it makes the game feel alive. The skill tree that they added is genius, and all the different bonanzas let you play the game how you want to play it, and kind of adapts the best of Tears of the Kingdom to the best of Mario. I loved this game so much, and I've put it on my top 10 games all time already, and it's obviously my game of the year pick. This game is amazing, and I'm definitely going to talk about it more in the future. That is your system seller right there. If you are getting a Switch 2 at some point, get Mario Kart and get Donkey Kong Bonanza, and you won't be disappointed. One of the games that I played that they added to Switch Online was Mario Strikers. I had never played Strikers because I never had a GameCube, but I really wanted to try it out. And dude, this game is timeless and so much fun. I played it with my roommates in college before I moved out, and we had such a blast playing, and it is insanely difficult for what it is. Like, I did not expect to have that much trouble with the CPU. You have different cups like Mario Kart, but you basically have to win like every match if you want to get to the next cup. It was so fun, and it was cool to see how Nintendo made their games differently back then than they do now. Now, after Donkey Kong came out, I wasn't really using my Switch as much, and because there hasn't really been many game launches besides Switch 2 editions of games that I've already played. They released Dragon Drive, which looks pretty dumb and kind of soulless, and they released the Mario Party Jamboree Switch 2 edition, which I bought and instantly regretted because it is an actual scam with the small amount of extra content they give you. Do not buy it. They also came out with Kirby Forgotten World, Star-Crossed World, or whatever, but I didn't enjoy the base game as much as a lot of people just because of how simple it was. But if you like the base game a lot, then you probably like the DLC, it seems. But yeah, I haven't been using it much lately, mainly due to me just going back and playing. Like, I played God of War, the original, on my PS3, and I was playing Hollow Knight on my Steam Deck in preparation for Silk Song. But yeah, it's been a kind of down period after Donkey Kong, just because there's not much to play new since I had already played most of the first party games on Switch 1. But it's looking like it's gonna start ramping up again, and especially since Silk Song came out yesterday and I bought that on Switch, I'm gonna put probably 100 hours in that game. So that'll keep me occupied and playing my Switch 2 until more of the first party games come out later this fall. I'm not really that into Pokemon, but since it's a new game, I'm probably gonna get Legend ZA. I just would like to play some multiplayer game, and I think that has a lot of multiplayer aspects to it. The battle mechanics of that look significantly different than past Pokemon games, and it just seems pretty interesting for a Pokemon game at least. But yeah, let's talk about the future of the Switch 2, and especially the games on the horizon coming up. I just spoke about Pokemon Legends ZA, but there are plenty more that are coming out soon, and one in particular that looked crazy when they showed it off was Kirby Air Riders. I never played the original because I didn't have a GameCube, but this game looks really cool. Like, a lot of people were complaining, like why would they have two kart racers come out within a year of each other, or within like 6 months of each other? But it honestly looks significantly different than Mario Kart. I mean, first off, I think they said there's only like it's like 6 or 8 racers per race, plus the special attacks that you have. I think they said it was like an action racing game or something. So the combat will probably be the main pull for the game. Also, the way that it controls is way different, where you only have 2 buttons. You have your special attack and you have your brake. When you brake, you actually boost forward. So that's how you gain speed, is by braking strategically. But yeah, that game looks pretty fun, and it comes out in this November, which is way sooner than I thought it would. Sakurai always puts out bangers, so I'm sure the game will be great, and it'll be a day one purchase for me. Next, I want to talk about Metroid Prime 4. We still don't know a release date for this game, but they said it's coming out in 2025. I really want to play this. I liked Metroid Prime 1 remastered on Switch, but I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I thought it felt kind of dated. And the puzzles, there's no way I could have done half of them without looking it up, honestly. I hope this game is like more accessible for like your average Nintendo fan without compromising the like complex puzzles. But regardless, I'm excited, and I think this, like with the mouse mode, could be really sick, especially since they said it's gonna run at 120 FPS. But we need a release date ASAP. Finally, I want to talk about 2 that are a little bit further away, which is Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment and Splatoon Raiders, which you don't really know much about. Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, I liked Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, but I think this game will do much better and will be much better because it's actually canon. I think they wanted to do the last game as a canon story, but I think they just were scared, and maybe Nintendo talked them out of it. But after the success of that game, I think that this with a canon story will do very well, and I'm really excited for it. Especially since it's on the Switch too, and it'll actually run decent, because those last 2 Hyrule Warriors ran garbage. But yeah, finally I want to talk about Splatoon Raiders. It seems like it's a single-player story mode Splatoon game, which I think is a really cool concept, and I'll definitely be playing that day one. I hope we hear more about it soon. Finally, I just want to talk about games that I want to come out soon. First off, we need a new Ocarina of Time remake. Like, if we could get one in the same vein as Final Fantasy VII Remake, it could be generational. I just really want people my age and younger to experience Ocarina of Time, because I think, in my opinion, it's still the best Zelda game, and I think people need a polished version of an old school Zelda just to see what they were like before Breath of the Wild changed the formula. I think that game would have so much potential and so many people would buy it. And lastly, 3D Mario is inevitable. It's been 8 years, I think, at this point, and I can't imagine how they're gonna top Donkey Kong Bonanza. I genuinely don't know what they would do to make it better than that game, and I don't even know like how far it is, because the Odyssey team made Donkey Kong Bonanza. Like, we could be waiting a while, but it's also been so long since the last game. I really just would like to hear something about it. Maybe we get something in that September Nintendo Direct, but regardless, everyone will be seated for the next 3D Mario. All in all, I'm really enjoying my time with the Switch 2, and I'd recommend it to most people. Maybe wait until Christmas time just so you can experience a good handful of new games instead of just 2 or 3 that are on the Switch 2 right now. But yeah, I feel like once Christmas rolls around and the Switch 2 launch year lineup is out for the most part, I think it'll be a insanely good purchase. Regardless if you already had a Switch 1, the Switch 2 is so much better, and I couldn't recommend it more. It's made me appreciate games that I didn't appreciate on the original Switch so much more, and just being able to play games at such a high fidelity in a handheld form factor is amazing, and I can't wait to see them push the hardware to its absolute limit. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna get back to playing Silk Song, and I hope y'all have a good one.